if you are aware of what your numbers can do and will do, that's a game changer. Wealth has nothing to do with money. It has all to do with mindset.
I welcome back Julio De Laffitte,
founder of JDL Strategies, Unstoppables, and Medigrow. $380 million of value created to the entrepreneurial ecosystem.
I bought my third house. At the time, I'm not even 30. This all became possible because of one relevant conversation. The more you invest, less tax you pay. The less tax you pay, the more you drive your debt down. You always operate within what you know. Houses in Australia will never be this cheap.
Where do you start?
The company grew to 300 employees, offices in Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Adelaide, Gold Coast, Sunshine Coast. You name it, we were present. Build this investment company just by observing what's needed. And what's needed the most is high-end education. I am going to give that software to every one of your listeners. The opportunity to be successful now financially in this country is unprecedented.
Hello and welcome to another episode of MedCentres TV. I'm your host, Deon Raju, and today we have a very special guest from the financial world, founder of JDL Strategies, Unstoppables, and Medigrow, founding president of the Australia-Brazil Business Council, with 25 years in financial services, $12 billion generated under JDL Strategies, $380 million of value created to the entrepreneurial ecosystem since the launch of Unstoppables in 2015, a multi-million-dollar investment portfolio. We are talking about the none other than Julio De Laffitte. Welcome, Julio.
Deon, it's good to be here.
It's an absolute privilege. It's an absolute privilege to have you on MedCentres TV. And I know we've been trying for a while to get in touch, but you're such a busy man. And so
we just came back from Antarctica, and but I understand in terms of brother, it is like it is good to be here. It is good to be here, man. In terms of being busy, we went to Antarctica, and it was just insane in terms of bringing a few things together, bring people together. And as you know, the medical industry, where we are at, things are about to go up and up and up. I'm really excited to be here with you today.
Wow.
Yes.
Well, where do we start? Well, let's start at the beginning. Brazil to Australia. Tell us about the journey.
Sure. Okay. So I came to Australia in 1988. So grew up in Brazil, educated in Portuguese, couldn't speak much English at all. Fell in love with an Australian girl, right? I met her in Brazil. She was an exchange student. I was only 18. She was 18. And so when I was 19 years old, I came to Australia. Very basic English. Came to Australia for love, right? And I got the odd job here and there. And then I realized I should get an education in English as well. So I have an economics degree. I started university really early in Brazil, was able to finish just before my 20th birthday. Came to Australia, was still on my late 19, then did a business degree here. By the age of 26, I did not know what I want to do in my life, but I realized two things. I liked people and I liked money. So I started an investment company. And people were like, what? At 26? Yeah. At 26, I started to realize, again, it's a conversation about DNA. It's a conversation about software that people have, So I saw my parents being immigrants. My mom is French. My father's Portuguese. This is really digressing now. And so my parents are immigrants to South America. And my mom and my dad did quite a few things that placed our family in a very good position, right? So that becomes software, becomes a way in which you interpret reality, right? So when I came to Australia, I kind of wanted to do my own version of the same thing. So very early on here, I got two jobs. And because I got two jobs, I quickly was able to put a deposit down on a house, and I bought a property. And then last moment, I didn't move into it. I actually had tenants come in and I rented out. A year later, I bought another house. This is interesting because I'm giving you the executive summary in a sense where a guy arrives in a new country, speaks very little of the language, and yet this island of ours is blessed. I got 2 jobs, right? And then within 1 year, I had enough of a deposit because I married the girl, we lived on her income, saved both of mine. So I bought the first house. Why? Because in Australia, finance is really, the banking system here is amazing. It really believes in people. So still now, all sorts of conversations in terms of where finances are at. At 20% deposit, I bought my first house. I then didn't move in as I thought I would because we met another couple and it was cheaper for us to move close to the university, right? And so we shared the house with another couple, big house with a pool, close to uni, and I rented my house out. A year later, I bought another house, right? Why? Because they let me. So you can see the software of my parents already at play in young Julio. Why did I buy a house? Because they let me. So why'd you buy another one? Because inside of me, I already had the software that says to get ahead, you got to accumulate capital. So I bought the second house. That's when somebody said to me, I remember this day where I was at a barbecue and somebody says to me, have you lodged your tax return? Because I was a new immigrant. And I said, and I remember thinking, new words. What's that? Like, you have not lodged your tax return? I'm like, no. So you can see the journey. I'm telling you, I immigrated in my early 20s. I worked odd jobs. I went to university. And at this time with the odd jobs, we managed 3 incomes, 2 for me, 1 for my wife, to buy the first house, second house, and I was going to uni, right? So then people said to me, you haven't lodged a tax return? I remember saying, no, so I went to see an accountant. At the interview of the accountant, little did I know that this crucial little moment, Deon, is the most significant moment in my life, is when in the interview with the accountant, he said to me, so tell us a little bit about you. So I have this job, I'm a full-time student, and I have this job, and I have this other job. I was working as a draftsman, on my part-time for 2 different separate companies. And he said to me, do you know you pay more tax on your second job? I'm like, really? I had no idea. But then I told him I had 2 houses. And he said, which one do you live in? I said, no, I don't. I rent both of them. And at that moment, I realized in that conversation with that accountant that if you live in your own house, there is one set of rules. If the houses are rented, completely different set of rules. Let me explain better. In that meeting, the accountant told me that the mortgages were tax deductible. I did not know that, Deon. He told me all my expenses with the council, insurances, everything, fully tax deductible. Now, please understand, at that moment, Australia was already too good because I was able to get 2 jobs and finance, right? In Brazil, where I come from, to borrow money, you need 4 guarantors. 2 of them must not be family. In Australia, all I needed was a 20% deposit. So sometimes people take things for granted. Finance is tough all over the world. Finance, to get finance, to buy something, to finance a real estate or whatever, it's not as easy. So the moment I realized that all of it was deductible, the accountant then said to me the following. He said to me, not only that, we're going to depreciate the house. Now, please understand, I have an economics degree from Brazil, and I was studying business. And I said, but the house is going up in value. How are you going to depreciate it? Young Julio asking the question. And the guy said to me, well, imagine that you have a tractor in your farm. You bought that tractor not for leisure. It's to produce. You're not having these houses for personal use. It's to produce. So it's an investment. All the expenses with the investment deductible, got that. But the house is going to depreciate like the tractor from a book perspective, like everything. You're going to have to replace carpets and so on and so forth. But the depreciation on a house was a significant amount. And it was like, so I remember excusing myself, going downstairs, and back on the day, there was no such a thing as mobile phones or... I remember changing $20 into 50 cents coins, calling my father and telling him, Dad, I'm at an accountant's office. This guy's telling me that the house is deductible. I got that, but he's going to depreciate the houses. My dad says, get out, it's a scam. Get out, get out, get out, it's a scam. And I said, Dad, it's a proper accounting office. There's a lot of accountants there, all the certificates on the wall. And so I went back in. So, Deon, the point I want to make in this introduction is this. You always operate within what you know, right? So when I went back and the guy then explained it, but he lodged my tax return. 6 weeks later, I got back $3,000. We're talking about early 90s now, right? $3,000 was so much money to young Julio. I'm like, wow, because he explained to me that was a result of the depreciation and claiming all the expenses. I had no purpose for that $3,000. Like I didn't even know it was coming. I even considered buying a new motorcycle. But the last moment, I got the $3,000 and I put against the mortgage on the first house. This is a significant moment. I swear to God, I thought that was a one-off. The following year, my accountant lodged my tax return and I got another $3,000. So, brother, the more you invest, less tax you pay. The less tax you pay, the more you drive your debt down. So young Julio, on the second year, when I lodged my second tax return. Now, in the medical fraternity in Australia, is a huge amount of people that are new Australians. And there's a lot they do not know. They do not know because they're busy trying to get the certificates aligned with the Australian certification processes. They're trying to educate the kids, pay the mortgages, and you cannot act on what you do not know, right? So young Julio, Medigrow Julio, years later, I understand what it is not to know fully. So the moment in which I got my second tax return and I put the $3,000 back into, I did my sums, and you know what happened? I bought my third house. At the time, I'm not even 30. So then I started realizing these things, and I finished my degree. I did a business degree here in Australia, and I was 27, and that's when I said, you know what? I am going to start a investment company. And I started teaching friends and family, right, what I was doing. And people start showing up. And this thing grew and grew and grew. And we ended up with offices in every capital city. It was a phenomenon. It was just like I was always in the right place at the right time. So the company grew to 300 employees, offices in Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Adelaide, Gold Coast, Sunshine Coast. You name it, we were present. And we became the second largest property distribution company in Australia. But we had a huge distinction. I don't sell property, I buy them. So this whole conversation now, a buyer's agent, that is newish now, like last 5 years, 10 years, become, especially in the last 5 years. But I've been doing it for the last 30 years. So basically when a client comes through, we teach them everything, all the distinctions in finance, depreciation, accounting, away we go. And the conversation became so special, so different, because normally people in investments, fortunately, unfortunately, they have a bias in selling a product. We thought, you know what? Sell the strategy. Be about the client. And one of the secrets for my success, and I believe this deeply, is that as the company started to grow, I started hiring my own clients to come work for me. And the first guy was an IT guy from Sydney who we really needed to start putting systems underneath. And I asked him, I said, man, you want to come work here? And he already bought 2 properties through us. So he came to work with us, and then we built, and as I said, we grew and grew and grew. So the journey for Julio is I came to Australia for love. I then went to university, started working, got really engaged with the possibilities, build this investment company just by observing what's needed. And what's needed the most is high-end education, sharp to the point where people can look at the numbers, understand what the numbers are, and then decide. Rather than be emotional and looking backwards, we need to be precise and look forward. And that's key. That's key for getting ahead. So now I have over 100 houses. I have 3 kids. It's been just amazing. The truth, though, is this all became possible because of one relevant conversation with that accountant. One relevant conversation that happened. The moment that I realized the switch between me working for my money working for me, that made all the difference in the world.
That's awesome. That's invigorating. Yes. Wow. 100 houses. Amazing. Yeah. Absolutely amazing. On the subject of education, financial intelligence, it's used widely, it's used loosely, and for those that do not understand financial intelligence and how pivotal financial intelligence is, what is financial intelligence, Julio?
Intelligence is your ability to look at something and be cognitive about it and connect the dots and have opinions that are closest to reality, right? So the faster you can go with forming your opinion closest to reality will kind of be the degree of intelligence you're carrying. Sometimes it's worth fantasizing because then you become creative, right? But bottom line is numbers have no feelings, you do. So financial intelligence is the ability to know where your numbers are going to lead you in real terms. But unfortunately, Deon, most people have a deep ingrained software where they spend what they earn. Let me show it to you. When you're young, you get your first job, you make 50 grand a year, you spend 50 grand a year. Then you work a little harder and you take it to 75, you spend 75. Then you take it to 150, you spend 150. Oh, you take it to 500. So it is very, very common to see people matching their income to their expenses across all walks of life. It's a human software. These people are intelligent because they're able to go and get a job that pays them well, to start a business that pays them. They are intelligent people. But financially, how rich are they? So if they don't have a process or a protocol, right, to create wealth that stays in their bloodline, their financial intelligence may be needing an upgrade. That is the conversation. So if you want me to dissect a bit further, is how do you pay less tax legally? Well, let's have a look at that, shall we? Most Western countries will give you incredible tax benefits if you behave in a certain way. Well, from a government perspective, they look at it and then go, we need more money to go here, to go there. So they will give tax incentives if money go here or there. It kind of makes sense. But if you don't even know that, you're just banging your head against the wall, paying your bills, as I said, matching your income to your expenses, right? To me, a difference of a guy who makes $300,000 a year and a guy who makes 150 is the guy who on 300, he goes to the snow for his holiday. The guy on 150 goes to the beach. A guy on 300 goes to the theater. A guy on 150 goes to the cinema. A guy on 300 drives an European car. A guy on 150 drives an Asian car. It is these little upgrades. But financial intelligence is when somebody looks at the taxation system and goes, how do I minimize my tax legally? So in Australia, they will give you incentives if you invest in movies. Really? Yeah, because they want to develop the movie industry here. Got it. They will give you this dispensation for this and that and the other. Well, what about property? Well, we live in an island where the population is set to increase. So demand is going to be greater than supply. So it doesn't matter. Every election time, they'll come along and it goes, oh, what about negative gearing? Just the wording around is so limiting. The governments in Australia, doesn't matter if they're left government or right government. That's why I say governments, right? Doesn't matter what inclination they have. They need to produce more houses. If they take it on themselves to do it, they become social housing. But if they give the investor the benefit for doing, and the investor is not this multimillionaire guy over there, it's people, like people that are going to have. So imagine the reality that John and Mary Smith invest in a couple of properties and they were able to deduct by law the interest rates, the council rates, the insurances, and get a depreciation back in cash. So they are literally minimizing the tax, use that money to drive their debt down. That allows them to buy eventually another house. Every single house that they own, cool? It facilitates the government not having to produce that house. So it's actually a beautiful system. But you cannot choose that if you do not know.
That's a perfect segue to my next question.
Yes.
So the average man on the street, listening to you, and it sounds so good. You know, how do they acquire financial intelligence? Where is it? Where do you find it? And where do you start? You know, to the man that's on 35,000, to the income earner that's on 300,000. Where do you start?
Okay. First, thank you for inviting me. If somebody's watching this right now, they're on it. They're
Yes.
not. They are right now. This moment. If somebody's here right now, hanging out with us, hi, and then you're on it. You're like welcome, 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 right? But Deon, what I notice is most people, couple of conversations, brother. People react to pleasure or pain. When it comes to financial intelligence, it's mostly pain. Okay, so let me say, too often people get the news of how much tax they got to pay. It's painful. They're not prepared. They're like, oh my God, I got to beat this. I gotta find out. And often they go back to being busy. Too many people are too busy to make any money. But they're getting a $20,000, $30,000, $100,000 tax bill every year. It's very common for us to have doctors paying $120,000 a year every year for the last 10 years. That's $1.2 million in tax in the last decade. And then when you say to them, what have you got in assets? They got their house. They may have a previous house where they used to live in, right? And that's it. So the financial intelligence that people acquire, the motivator often is pain. So then they go and ask questions to people that don't have the answers. For example, it's very common for us to go and speak to a friend at a barbecue or a birthday party. And the friend says, I just put $1 million or 500,000 or 10,000, 5,000, I don't know, into Bitcoin. What? And that's why then all these conversations, hold on a second. What's the asset underlying this? So it's very hard for you to find people having constructive conversations in terms of property, superannuation, managed funds, conversations that actually make sense because people generally don't know. And then when they go to their accountant looks at compliance. The moment people realize that very few accountants, we actually don't call them accountants in our world, we call them wizards. If your accountant has moved in his gut internal software into helping you to create wealth, then you have a wizard. Because the majority of accountants, their training is to make sure that you are compliant with the tax laws. Wealth creation is nominal, right? So people then have that pain. Then they go, I got to look at that. And then the conversations are shallow, they know it, and that's when they go deep. And then they start buying books on investment, properties, start spending the time in understanding. But that's only 20% of people. Out of those 20% of people, only 8 will actually do something significant. A wealthy nation needs wealthy individuals. That's why we are committed to financial education. Committed like 30 years. So that's why we run the digital events. When people come, we deliver in a couple hours, 100 hours worth of reading. Because an author doesn't know what you know, it doesn't know what you don't know. So he needs to explain the skies are blue, the oceans are green in order to make a point. We will just give you the points, right? So financial intelligence is crucial. How to get it? If you have no idea and you're just starting right now, I'm just going to suggest a couple of books, okay? One is Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Basic? I don't think so. Go there. Just if you are just beginning as, read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Some people are going to say outdated, blah, blah, blah. No, go there. Number one, if you want to be a bit deeper and go more solid, Nick Renton. Nick Renton is an Australian author, right? Understanding the Stock Exchange. The title is dead. It's boring. No one is going to go and buy a book called Understanding the Stock Exchange unless they are in a lot of pain and they want money to work for them. But I promise you a couple of things. That book is going to give you solid grounding, right? Another thing that you can do is use simulation software where you plug in your data and you go, what if? The more, and those softwares, the financial planners can give it to you. Some financial planners want to charge you, though, to play the software, right? But if you have simulation softwares where you plug your numbers in and you calculate your debt reduction, your tax minimization, and so on, you will learn so much, so fast, first, because you're present. And second, you want to switch from working for your money to have your money work for you.
That's awesome. Financial intelligence. Why JDL? Why Unstoppables? Why Medigrow?
It's called a mind that's not quiet, right? So everything wasn't this big, man. I had very humble beginnings, right? As I said to you, I was just in love with this girl. So I came here. I went to uni, right? And I just bought that first property because it was something like I kind of need to prove to my parents that I could do it away from them and do it on my own. A bunch of conversations like that, right? So what can I do? So when I started my company, it was pretty much like I was talking to friends, people that I went to uni with, and they got their job, right? I was talking to their parents. So in the beginning, these people start to become our clients, and what we would do is do the simulations. It's really quickly start, what if this, what if that? What if interest rates go up? What if the houses don't rent? Capitalization, depreciation. So we started this, and then just do life. That's what JDL is, just do life. Imagine for how would you do your life? How would you do your life if you knew the numbers? And then, so from the beginning, we started educating people, and then we start sourcing for people. We kind of created a buying group. Rather than me selling property to people, what if I was to buy for my clients? So the premises were teach everything to the client. Clients understand, yep, now let's execute. So then the client hops on with us. We are buying any given time 20 to 30 houses, right, for our clients. So we did all the due diligence work, taught them everything, and then did what they would do. But we did it in bulk. So that's where JDL grew and grew and grew, because who can I trust? So we delivered value and trust. So I did that, and then it grew from being just a concept to a significant company. And then when I was in my mid-40s, I thought, where's my legacy piece? So I handed over JDL to the executive team, and I started Unstoppables. So Unstoppables is when a bunch of people that what I wanted was to get together a bunch of high-end entrepreneurs, right? Very high-end, people that came out of nowhere and made something big. And what would happen if I put everybody together for a week, 10 days, and have people could take time out of being them so busy all the time, and have other conversations about going to the future, about where's everything leading, where's government at, So we just took a punt at it, and I booked a boat. I went to Antarctica. I just invited people. Just called people. Says, I'm going to Antarctica to hang out for 10 days. Do you want to come? And people go, what? What? Is it cold? It's like, it was the most polarizing thing I ever done. And I would call the high-end entrepreneurs like top. Hey, because you see, at that point, JDL was a very significant company. We were doing, let's say we're doing well, right? So we would just call people, and some people would say, yes, I'm in, but I haven't told you. No, I'm in, I'm coming, right? And we did it. So in 2015, we arrived in Antarctica on Australia Day with 106 top-end entrepreneurs, spent 10 days there. And man, I never looked back. It was an incredible, the program, the protocol, pull out of the space, everything that is seeking to emerge. Lots of people started investing in each other and so on and so forth. So I came back. I said to the executive team at JDL, I'm going to be doing more and more of the Unstoppable. So we immediately booked the Amazon, because then the following trip was to the Amazon. And I had a superb team running JDL, and they kept growing the company. And then I started to go towards technology. And one thing leads to another. A bunch of doctors start showing up. So please notice now the ecosystem. Lots of doctors with highly inefficient taxation happening. So they're paying a lot of tax. No idea. So I already have an education program here. Here we go. But some of these guys wanting to become entrepreneurs and wanting to do things. So if you notice the ecosystem, what happens is this: these doctors showing up, and they had highly inefficient tax relationships. Let's call it that way. Paying $100,000, $150,000 a year. So I already had the educational piece. So it became very clear that we could create Medigrow. It's basically JDL has a baby with Unstoppables. And we create a system, integrated system, where doctors may learn everything they want. Anyone in the medical profession, nurses, doctors, dentists, can learn everything they need in terms of minimizing the tax, investing, right, buying properties, how to set for retirement. So it became that, and an angle of innovation, right? So, and that's what we are doing now, right?
All right. So tell me about this innovative new software that you guys have developed. Yeah, tell me about this software and this platform. I'm intrigued. It's been getting great reviews and great results.
Yeah. So imagine if you could have time out for yourself, and you sit with the software. It doesn't know who you are, but the software is intelligent enough. So in my journey, I built JDL, but then I became cognitive that AI is for real. It's not in the future, it's already in the past. So we set out to build an AI software that sits there and goes, I'm not judging, I'm just telling you straight. So you're immediately able to have an adult conversation with yourself. And there's no one trying to sell you anything. So what are the parameters? Pay less tax, get rid of your debt, and build an asset base. That's it. That's always the parameters, right? Let's pay less tax legally. Let's minimize our debt fast and build an asset base. So we created a software called WealthGo, and it's designed for you to work with your accountant, have superior conversations, better conversations. So the software has intelligence in it where you plug in your numbers and it will give you 3 timelines. Keep doing what you're doing. Just keep doing what you're doing. It's called as is. What's possible for you right now immediately integrates your finance with your accounting position, and it shows you what's possible to do. And what if you were to utilize the AI and move every single time you could move? And the AI just outlay for you now. So you can see your next strategic movements for the next 10, 20 years. That's what the software is.
Wow. So you had JDL Strategies. You got the Unstoppables. And now you got Medigrow. And on your journey, you've grown in the finance markets. You've taken all that knowledge, you've put it into Medigrow for high net worth individuals like doctors, but anyone that has a high network kind of income and value. So if I'm sitting and watching this now, and say I've made some bad investments, say whatever it may be, or I'm a new kid on the block and I'm hungry and I don't know where to start, and I could have an income of 60,000 or 50,000, or I'm the guy that still have a high income, but I'm just swimming in debt. I've either gone through a divorce, or I made some bad business, or just some bad financial decisions. What's your advice?
This is beautiful, man. Because just in your commentary, you gave me somebody who's just starting out, somebody who may have good decisions, where do I go next, bad decisions, how do I recover, and no in between. I would go to a simulation software, and that's what Wealth Goal is. So as a matter of fact, between you and me, I am going to give that software to every one of your listeners. All they have got to do is to, whatever you put it up, the QR code or the link, and we will give it to them as part of being present here today.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely, right?
There you have it.
As we spoke about this, because the truth is, no one is going to come trying to flog them anything, hassle them. The truth is, you sit with the software. So let's just say you didn't do any bad decisions. You're just numb. Let me explain what numb is. You are 46 years of age. You know you should be ahead of where you are right now. You should be further along, but you're not. Why? Because your attention is being on other things. So then you sit down, you put in the numbers. The software is going to tell you exactly where you are and how you're going to land. Then it's going to tell you your opportunity cost. And it's going to tell you what all the movements you can make, and you can play with the software to adjust interest rates, ownership. It's just the software itself, just playing with it. It plugs so many other pieces that, and then you can use that very software to have better conversations with your accountant. If you just do that, a lot of edge will be taken off. So you will be able to, if you could minimize your tax a little, you could get enhancing your performance. That alone, right? That alone should give you. Now, kids just starting. I see doctors take a long time to train. So they make an okay, like a little bit of money, okay, and then boom, now I'm a doctor. Right, no, hold on a second. You still got 2 years to, of transition here, right? And then you start to see the money rises and then off they go, right? So there's a lot of catch up to do. Imagine if in that process, you know your numbers intimately. And you go, whoa, what if I was to pay myself $200 a week? What would that do? What if to pay myself, mate? It is just, it goes. It actually shows you every single movement you can make. So if you're a young kid playing life, if you were numb, if you're into a divorce is a situation where your assets often get halved, right? And then you go, how do I reset? So it is true, after the pandemic, divorces are going through the roof. We have helped so many people because there's no emotion. There's absolutely no emotion. The numbers are saying this, you can do this, this, or this. And here are the results. If you do this, you end up here. If you do that. And then once you have the numbers, the strategy, then you start to think about products to back up that strategy, right? So financial intelligence is a desire to get ahead in life, often comes through pain, right? People have, I got to do something better. They go looking, but the truth is you don't need to suffer. The software, I tell you, I'll go further. Anyone watching this, I will also make available me training 30 accountants. Everybody in the room is an accountant. So I said to them, hey guys, this is a show. I'm going to put a show on for you, but I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to your clients, because the conversation we're going to have is a conversation your clients want to have, not you, because you already think you know all of it. So I did that. Mate, it was incredible because we match our income to our expenses. Everybody does it, including the accountants, right? So, or you have your money working for you or you don't. And the switch is gentle. It does not need to be through pain. It does not need to be through awkward or weird circumstances, right? Normally it does happen that way, but if you are aware of what your numbers can do and will do, that's a game changer.
So we've got the software, and we've spoken about whether you're young or you're old, doesn't matter where you're at. What about mindset? You know, when you're young and you're robust and you're hungry, that's one aspect, right? And there's lots of advantages because you've got your whole future ahead, right? But then, if you're tired, mentally fatigued, physically burnt out, whatever the situation is, divorce, kids through university, and then you think, look, we've got property for one aspect, but you're in your 50s now, so the banks go, look, you're too old. I can give you a 25, 30-year mortgage, and you go, I can't do this, and you feel that there's just nowhere out. So is it just property, or is it an entire spectrum of other investments? How do you change your mentality? What advice do you give to everyone else that makes contact regarding this financial intelligence?
So I would like to give you an elaborate answer rather than just do this. Here's the thing. If you notice, we have been educated, right, to work our entire lives. Our education is go get a good job. It doesn't matter what you do, that's our education. That's why there is no financial intelligence in any schools. That little bit, but nominal. Most people don't understand how credit works. They don't understand how debt works, right? So one of the core components of what we teach is banks do not lend money. That's hypnotic. Banks sell money. So when you say, can I borrow some money? What's the interest rates? Might as well say, can I buy some money? What's the price? Now we're closer to reality, right? So if somebody shows up and they're a bit burnt out, this, that, the other, the truth is, wealth has nothing to do with money. It has all to do with mindset, right? Because if you're got all the money in the world and miserable, what's the point of that, right? So I would invite you to come into an adventure of you being you. So if you're feeling a bit under the weather, there are plenty of research to say, walk, breathe more, go to the gym. I mean it. I'm no doctor, but they have deep research now that if you are putting on muscle, it does put back. So put on muscle sends signals to your entire system that life is worth living. It is the best way I can put it right now for a short piece. Now back into the economics point of view. Banks are not going to lend you the money. Got it. Then do funds. There are plenty of managed funds that invest in property, plenty of managed funds that do. Just what I beg people to do is don't go lottery and start buying a bunch of cryptocurrencies that you don't understand. You want to understand crypto? You got to ask one question. What's the underlying asset? That's it. If you don't get an answer to what I am saying, it's speculative. Then speculate appropriately, right? Now, one of the things I want to say to you is when a doctor tells me that he wants to retire, he's 60, 65, 70, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. So plenty of cases over the years where a doctor comes into their mid-60s, early 60s, mid-60s and say, I want to retire. They probably just want some time off, right? Too many times they say, I want to retire. We create all the strategy for retirement. And then what actually happens is they come back and they say, I'm just helping a friend. I'm just working one day a week. My wife just married me for dinner. just like my husband married me only for dinner. I want to, so, and they go back working one day, 2 days. Well, they're not retired, are they? Right? So banks understand that doctors are a different breed. And most nurses as well, psychologists. These guys, because of their training, they marathon runners, right? So I would say to you, emotions aside, let's have a look at the numbers. So I want you to know that in my wake, in 30 years working in this, we have seen everything. We have seen people come in distorted by life circumstances, all sorts of things. And I say to them, listen, I'll take care of the numbers, right? And then the numbers, let's just align the numbers. One less thing for you to be concerned about.
All right. So that's one end of the spectrum. So if I'm a parent, or I'm an elder brother or a sister, at what age should we start talking to our kids about the financial intelligence? Start grooming them, giving them information. Because let's face it, if you look at the numbers, or you look at ratio-wise, at what age? I mean, most people make bad investments because of the lack of financial intelligence. But at what age should we start educating?
Man, sometimes as you can tell, my mind works much more in storytelling. So I work in two modes, storytelling or objective as, like cut to the chase. This one I want to cut to the chase. You talk to your kids about financial intelligence the moment that they can comprehend, the moment that they understand a joke. 6 years old, 7 years old, they can comprehend some basic, you start planting the seeds, right? So for example, when my daughter was 4, I wrote a little song and I made her sing it. And the song went like this. The more you invest, less tax you pay. The less tax you pay, the more you drive your debt down. And then I used to joke and say to her, where are you driving your debt? And she goes, down, because she just listened to the word, she knew the word down. As she grew, and then she's 10, she says, Dad, what's tax? There are no free roads, no free hospitals, there are no free schools. So taxation is a way where we participate in our community, right? But there's inefficient tax, and so it is your right to minimize your tax legally. So imagine having a conversation like that with a 10-year-old. So my daughter now is 14. So what I'm trying to say to you is this. If you haven't had this kind of conversation with your kids, start. You haven't had this conversation with yourself? Okay, start. Right? It's time to start. And the truth is, one of the parameters I would say to any adult is pick a date on the calendar year. Mine is the 7th of August. On the 7th of August every year, I take a moment to think, am I richer than last year? 7th of August every year. Now, we can talk just finance, okay? Do I have more assets than last year? But I can also talk about experiences. Am I richer? Do I speak further a new language? Do I play more an instrument? Am I better at whatever? So am I richer than last year? Yes or no? Yes or no? Adult conversation with yourself, right? So the age piece is if you start to become richer yourself, I will make a promise. I'm no doctor, but I'm going to make a promise right now. You start having this conversation once a year on the 7th of August for me. Am I right, richer than last year? And it's a broader concept than just money. I promise you, you will anti-age. I promise you. You will feel younger, you feel more robust. For example, 2 years ago, I knew very little about quantum computing. I knew enough about AI because of our systems, but I did not know. And then quantum computing showed up in my window. And I start looking at it and going, oh my God. Now I'm so much closer. I get out of my way to find out where quantum computing is. It's just, it doesn't take all this time in the world. It's nothing like that. It's just a bit of research. Once a week, twice a week, performance. How do you gain muscle after your 50th birthday? So a little bit of that. Now I'm getting more and more accurate with this. So you start to become richer in experience, money, cash. So the point is focus on your results across all the modalities, spirituality, intellect, finances. Why? Because you can. Because if you're busy all the time, you become a zombie, numb. And unfortunately, I'm meeting so many people that are exactly near burnout. They're just working. So when I tell you I met a doctor who's paid 120 grand in tax on the last 10 years, year in, year out, I say, where is your accountant? Is it a conversation to have with the accountant? The one ingredient that doctor should have is, how do I minimize my tax legally? Oh, found a solution, implement the solution, starts to create the assets, tell the kids. Can you see the loop? Start telling your kids, this is what I'm doing. Boom, boom. So you start to become more accountable to yourself and to your family.
I think in one of your podcasts, you also say that doctors pay more tax than a small business. Yeah. All right. And listening to you regarding, self-development. So we want to do some deep diving now into the life of Julio. What was one of the biggest decisions you made? And what was one of the biggest mistakes that you made?
Yeah, okay. Whew. Well, depends on how. Okay, one of the biggest mistakes I have done is to not check. See, when you are going to create something, there is no way. There's a lot of unknown, right? And sometimes, like, how can I position myself to do something no one's ever done before, right? So, for example, take 106 entrepreneurs to Antarctica, right? So one of the biggest mistakes I've done is not check the crew, that the crew is ready to go all the way. I'm committed to go all the way. So by crew, I mean my CEO, my CFO, like some people. So you need to be able to lay the vision, even though if you don't know. So 16 years ago, we started to grow. Like we were having double-digit growth per month. It was just insane. Why? Because we got some things right inside of the company. So that's JDL. So extremely successful in JDL. Then I went to the Unstoppables. Inside of Unstoppables, the vision became larger, further, amazing. And the mistakes that I made was to invite people into the crew that did not have the needs to run the whole race, right? So that cost me investing years and time into people that will leave, but not leaving because they're bad characters. They're not bad people. They just didn't have the needs, right? So that investigation for me now is the most important. Like today, I was interviewing, before I came here, interviewing somebody to come in as an operations manager in one of my businesses. And I was just talking vision and like, what about this? What about that? Now tell me, why should you be here? Tell me about this, tell me about that. And now asking for longevity in the life of the project. So let me summarize this for you. Upfront agreements. So I want to build this, for example, with this particular person, I'm saying AI is here to stay. AI is not going anywhere. So we need to educate the medical fraternity on what AI is and what it isn't, and the opportunities that will rise because of it. So there's no point in talking a little bit about it. We got to go all the way and push through the resistance, push through. Imagine, say to a doctor, you got to do a course in AI. What's the doctor going to say? No, what's it to do with me? We already know that. What's it to do with me? Everything to do with you. Might as well hop on this horse. So the biggest mistake I have made by far is to have a vision, be excited about the vision, and have crew come in to help me to build the vision that didn't see it all for what it was and what's possible. Okay? So you have to replace that person, put somebody else in. It costs a lot.
Okay, so I hear you talk about quantum computing. I hear you talking about AI, which is a big topic globally. What's your prediction for the future for the global markets?
Oh. Okay. So I have, as I told you, I have kids. So I'm going to start with something funny. I reckon my daughter is going to break up with her digital boyfriend that is not human, exactly like in the movie, right? Before she breaks with a real boyfriend, human boyfriend. Or my son's going to break up with a girlfriend that's digital. So what's going to happen now is this. The evolution of digital capabilities will allow you to go into the movie you like the most. Let's just say your favorite movie is Jerry Maguire. Classic, right? Imagine now a simulation where you put on the goggles and you go into Jerry Maguire and you're a character. You actually interface with Tom Cruise. That's not far. Not far at all. It's around the corner. As a matter of fact, I got a pitching deck on my desk right now to make this possible, right? So think about entertainment where you don't go to the movies, you in the movies, right? So my prediction is this. We still live inside of biological systems. So when it comes to doctors, I would say learn AI. Don't be afraid of it. Use it. Hop on this horse. If you know nothing about it, it is time for you to get curious. In that curiosity, you will go through. Humans, we already on our plan for depopulating, not our mind, as an observer. The plan of depopulating the planet is full swing. It's happening. So our population is still already increasing. Just do any research on populations increase and then populations decrease 2050 onwards. You will know. So when the development of AI, quantum computing is a game changer. All this technology we have, all this speed to information is very slow in comparison. So once that is at play, we can actually have AI. I don't think AI would be conscious in the way to want to kill us. I think that is fantasy. I think AI is coming to. So we have a window right now of learning where people can truly hop on this horse.
Okay. So you took people to Antarctica. Tell us about your latest venture. What's happening in Miami end of this year, Julio?
Yeah. Brother, sometimes you ask me questions that I go like, you can see I go all of this, but in being objective about it, Miami is all about getting 100 doctors. And so if people are listening to this now and they go, man, I got to know more. I got to go ahead financially. I got to minimize my tax, So I want you to imagine everything I learned in Unstoppables, I'm now giving it specifically to people in the medical community. So if you're a nurse listening to this, you're a doctor, a psychologist, and you want to hang out with other people that are going to have conversations outside of the box, go further outside of the circle, right? Go further in the quantum, right? Clever, smart people. So Miami is no more, no less than a bunch of people getting together, having amazing speakers come together. So we get to go to Miami with some technology, some American technology we have access to. You get privy to it. It's fully tax deductible, the trip, because it is a business trip, right? So you come, you take time out. It's a 1 week. It's from the official days are from the 2nd to the 6th of October. So you get a day earlier to get there, 2 days to stay later. The whole trip is tax deductible because it's a business. And then we're going to have conversations that don't happen every day. And we're going to have with your peers, other people, and let it rip. So when you come back home, you'll be equipped to make better financial decisions, better business decisions. Yeah, that's what Miami's all about.
Last but not least,
Yes.
before I ask you this question, I sitting here listening to you. I could do this all day.
Thanks, man.
It's invigorating. It's motivating. It's inspirational. So my last question for you today, Julio, is: what does success look like for you?
I'm a highly successful person, but as I said before, I came here. I feel like I had a little push bike. So I was riding that little push bike, man, with my little legs as fast as I could. So I built those little legs. And then I was able to put a little engine on the back of the bike. And then I perfected that little engine. And then I was able to put a cover over the bike, make it a car. And then it became a faster car. And then I put wings on that car. And then I took off. Success is a person who can close loops and call a better vision on themselves. So a better vision for me now. I'm 56 years of age. Some people sometimes Google what my net worth is. I don't care about that, right? I got kids that have incredible conversations about discipline. I believe my 3 kids are disciplined in that vein. They want to become a better version of themselves. That's what success is to me. So I am now really focused in getting really fit in ways that I haven't been before. I'm really focused in less is more, bringing technology into the medical space in ways which people see, oh my God, this makes sense. And I want to say something to you now in terms of opportunity, okay? Anyone watching this, houses in Australia will never be this cheap. I remember me having this conversation when the houses were $350,000. And I said to people, before a decade is over, they will be worth 800. Everybody like, what? They are $1 million now. Last year, we're buying houses at 650,000. Now they're sitting at 750, 800. I can tell you right now, when you live in an island, when they're telling you the population is going to go from 25 million to 30 million in less than 30 years, the amount of wealth created in that island is unprecedented. If you have no idea what I'm saying, no idea, that's when you become real with your numbers. So the opportunity to be successful now financially in this country is unprecedented. Get to know your numbers now. Move on it. Have better conversations with your accountant. Have better conversation with your peers, your partner. And the truth is 25 million to 30 million. Everything, more services, more push bikes, more. Australia is entering a decade of prosperity in ways we haven't seen before. However, not for everybody. Those in the know, they will see it and act. Those that do not know, they're just going to watch them go by. That's what success is, the ability to see the trends and hop on them.
Thank you so much, Julio, for joining us today and for sharing such valuable insights in the world of finance and personal development. Thank you, Julio.
Deon, my pleasure, brother. My pleasure. It's been good.
It's clear that understanding our finances can truly transform our lives. To our listeners, we hope you found this conversation as enlightening as we did. Be sure to implement some of Julio's strategies in your own financial planning. For more insights and resources, check out Julio's website and follow him on social media. Don't forget to tune in to next week for more inspiring conversations. Until then, keep striving for excellence in all that you do. Thank you for listening, and goodbye for now.